Hello, welcome back to the Sewing Circle. My name is Lesley and this is my channel. Today we are going to be taking a white vest from the thrift shop and turning it into a boho button-up top. If that sounds interesting, stick around. Let's go make this top. I found this white vest at a local thrift shop. I thought it would make a great top. I also found this awesome woman's face applique on Whatnot. And I'm going to go ahead and be cutting out flowers, hearts, doing some embroidery, doing some handwork, stamping, and dyeing to create a new top. I've been cutting out and placing these pieces of fabrics, mainly flowers, hearts, and I've had this big applique I got off of Whatnot. And then on this side, some more hearts, some more flowers. And now I'm getting ready. I've done a little bit of gluing here and there just to tack them down. But what I want to do is just really press. I probably should have pressed it before I put everything on. But I want to press the vest really smooth and get everything laid on here really smoothly, making sure I have everything where I want it before I begin machine stitching it into place. I have these all pressed as smooth as I possibly can get them. I did add a couple of little pins here and there where it was just really flopping around. And now I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, put on my quilting foot, and do top stitch appliquing to all the little pieces here. So let's go do that next. This is the little freehand motion foot that I'm going to be putting on my Bernina. Your machine should have something like this that came with it, or you could get one on Amazon. It's just, it allows your foot to move around freely while you're hand quilting. I'll show you what I mean. I also chose this rainbow thread to do the appliquing. I got this at JoAnn's when they were going out of business. I got a couple of these, just rainbow colored, but you could pick any color of thread that you want. I just like the rainbow for this, all these bright colors. I think it'll add a nice little bit. It'll add a nice little touch to the applique. One thing I am making sure of when I'm appliquing is that the flap from this vest is stuck under and not flipped out, because I don't really want it to get bulky underneath while I'm appliquing. My goal is not to have it be perfect, but to just have it be really free and flowy. So everything I'm doing right now is just going to be free and flowy, not perfect. I don't care that the edges will be raw when I'm done. I want them to fray out and just be kind of artsy. That's the whole point of this. I like to do a little fabric drawing. That's what I'm doing here with this leaf. I don't know if you can see it, but I've gone around the outside of it, down the middle once, and back around the outside of the leaf just to give it like an embroidered quality. So let me see if I can get you closer so you can see what I've done. I've gone out around this whole heart. I've gone around some of these flowers and leaves, And I'm just going to continue on. I'm going to go around the girl and in these flower pieces, do a little applique work and just slowly work my way down off everything to get it all attached tightly to the vest, but also to embellish it with kind of some thread drawing like I did right here. So I've got all of the stitching done on the two front sides. It runs a little bit tight, so now I am thinking about sewing this panel to the back. This is a doily I picked up from that estate sale, and I'm thinking I'll pin it and top stitch it to the back, and then cut and remove the inside of the doily space that I have underneath. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but sew the doily on and then cut away underneath around the circumference of the doily. And this will give me an open doily back, but also, which I think will look really cool, the doily has a lot more give than this fabric, and it just needs just a little more give. I want a little more flowiness to the vest. So thinking about doing that. Stay tuned and I'll let you know what I decide. Okay, I'm getting ready. I've thought on it. I've made my decision about the back, but I want to find the center back before we get started. So I'm going to fold my vest in half like this so that I know exactly where the center is. And then once I do that, I'm just going to press a crease in the center to help me just kind of have a guide for placing the doily and other items on the back of this, because we don't want it offset. So you can see I have a nice crisp line here to use for reference. Now I'm going to get my doily, and you can see that the doily obviously kind of has a basic middle. There's two circles on each side of the basic middle. And so I'm just going to use that guide and kind of roughly line it up to the crease of the middle. I'm lining the bottom of the doily up with the basically just above the bottom of the vest, and I want to leave a little seam edge here where I can add some lace later, because I do know I think I'm going to want to add lace to the bottom of this. So my next step is just to pin this roughly into place where I want it. I am thinking about, when I'm all done with this, that I'm going to want to dye it. I'm like trying to decide if I want to dye it just a really light tea dye, kind of stick with the white theme, but kind of make it kind of like an off-white or kind of an off-pink. I don't think this time I want to overwhelm the brightness of the flowers with my dye, but I just haven't decided. I usually just decide as I go. Okay, we've got this sewn on. The doily's sewn in place. I made a decision while I was at the sewing machine to go ahead and, okay, I zigzagged all the way around the outside here. And then I went ahead and I didn't go all the way across the bottom. I left it loose, and I zigzagged just a little ways up from it. You can see the line. So this is all sewn because I wanted the waist area to still have a lot of stability. This discarded piece that came in all of my linens I picked up. This could be really pretty. Here, let's move it out so you can see. This could be really beautiful sewn to the bottom like this. I'm going to flip it over. I'm just going to cut a little hole for my sewing scissors to fit in. And then I'm going to cut around my stitching, being careful not to catch the doily and the scissors underneath. Okay, so this is what we have now. We have an open back, and you can see it gives a lot more stretch. It's not going to be so restrictive. So let's mess around with this piece of fabric that we cut out from here and the stamps, and let's see if we can create some, like a really cool tag for the back. I've got my permanent ink stamp And this is all-purpose ink pad for fabric and paper. And it's from the yellowowlworkshop.com. And then here I have like the alphabet and numbers, stamps and flowers and things. Okay, since this is a one-of-a-kind vest, I think I'm going to have it say, "You're one of a kind." Okay, we're getting ready to dye the vest. I did do a little bit of hand embroidery on that tag, like I said I wanted to. Don't think I did anything else. No, I just am going to wet this and put it in this pot. But first, I saved the dye that I made from last time. I just poured it in quart jars while it was hot and it sealed up. It's the tea and the pink dye from last time. So I'm going to pour some of this into the pot first, and then I have a little sample of the fabric from this vest, and I'm going to do some dipping to see the shade I want. I know I want it a little less dark of a tea color and a little more pink coming through, but I still want to give it that bohemian warm look. So we're going to pour this into the pot first. And now I'm just going to fill my quart jars with equal amounts of water to what I put in there. We can always darken it up, so let's do that next. So I filled these up with water now just to get the last little bit of color out of them. This dye was left over from my last jacket. It's the Flower Garden Bohemian jacket, Upcycle, that I did. And yeah, I just decided to save the dye while I dump it down the drain when you could use it again. If you put it in your jars while it's hot and put the lids on, it will vacuum seal as it cools. So I'm going to let that heat up a little bit. I do know I'm going to want it a little pinker, so I'm going to go ahead and put a splash of this pink fuchsia in. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to let it heat up a little bit. I'm going to show you the color. Right now it's kind of this rosy color, warm color, amber color now, since I added the pink to it. I have a couple of pieces left over from the trim off of that jacket. So I thought we could start with just a piece of the cotton and just kind of get a sense for what this color is going to look like. I think I'm going to add a couple of tea bags just to make it a little more concentrated with kind of that antique-y look, because I just had that in there for like a couple minutes longer, and it does seem to be picking up a lot of the pink to it, which isn't all bad. I don't mind it. I just want it to have just a touch of that brownish undertone for antiquing. This is the tea I've been using from Trader Joe's. This is what the bags look like. I think I'm just gonna put in like, I don't know, maybe 4 bags right now. So I don't want it to get too brown. I want it to have that undertone of a brown to the pink, but more pink. So let's try 4 bags and just let those marinate a little bit. Okay, you can see I have our first dip in was this lighter pink, and then I added some tea and got a little bit of a darker antique pink. So I'm going to give this a try. I can always dip it in more tea if I don't like it when it's all said and done. I can do another over dye of just tea. So I have our vest wetted. I'm going to take out the tea bags and then I'll be putting the vest in. And kind of how long do I want it in? How dark and dense do I want it? Look at that. Yeah, I think that's just going to be beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and put the vest in. Here, let me bring that up closer to the camera so you can see it. I think I need to turn on the light. We're getting a nice pinky tea, and that pink will get a little darker as it's set in there. It's wetted, getting ready to put it in. Ooh, so fun and exciting. If you've never dyed anything, I highly recommend. It's really fun. It's really interesting what you end up with and how dyeing can just marry all of the colors of the fabrics, bring everything together to be a cohesive piece. There will be parts of this that do not pick up any dye because I do have some synthetic fabrics in here on the vest. They won't pick up much dye, if any. This is what we're looking at. I'm loving it already. Now it will lighten up as we rinse it and dry it, so I'm going to leave it in here just a tad bit longer. Then we'll pop it in the wash machine and put it into the dryer to set the dye. Just pulled it out of the dye. You can see we've got ourselves a really beautiful finish of pink. I rinsed this a little bit in the sink and it just kind of has too much of pinky pink for me. I like this down here with a little bit of a brown to it, but we're going to I added some more tea bags. If that doesn't work, I'm going to go ahead and pour this into jars to save, and I'm going to go ahead and just do a tea bath over the pink to give it just a little bit of that little brown lift. So stay tuned, that's what I'm doing next. Also, I decided to cut the sleeve binding off of the sleeve openings because the sleeve openings felt a little restrictive to me. So I cut them off. Yes, I know it's wet. I just cut them off, and I'm going to go ahead and let those kind of fray. And I really like how it gives it a little more of an open sleeve look, so that your t-shirt sleeve or whatever you have on can come through. So that's what I did, and so stay tuned for the next dyeing.